Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS. With less than 3 days for the UPSC Prelims, this is the data from the Indian economy that you need to revise. Let's do it quickly. Starting with the classification that is used by different organizations to classify the member countries. World Bank uses a method called as Atlas method, and it classifies the member countries based on GNI per capita. The latest numbers are: low income countries are those which will have a GNI per capita of up to $1,145. Lower middle income countries, 1,146 to $4,515. Upper middle income countries, 4,516 to $14,005. High income countries are those which will have a GNI per capita income of more than $14,005. India, according to this, is classified as lower middle income country with a GNI per capita of more than $2,500. World Trade Organization does not use any kind of a threshold. Rather, it follows a concept of self-declaration. Member countries, they will have to declare themselves whether they are developed, developing, or least developed country. India is classified as developing country, so is China. China very recently has announced that for further agreements, it should not be considered as a developing country and not given any kind of a benefit. IMF uses a parameter under which it classifies the member countries into advanced economies and emerging market and developing economies. India is classified in the second part. What about the poverty data? We have multi-dimensional poverty index which is published by Niti Aayog. It uses three dimensions: health, education, and living standard. These three dimensions are further divided into 12 indicators. We also have the multi-dimensional poverty index which is published by United Nations. It started in the year 2010. It has same three dimensions but has only 10 indicators. What are the two additional indicators published in the Niti Aayog's index? One is maternal health and second one is bank account. The World Bank very recently has revised upwards the parameter that uses to classify extreme poverty. Until recently, it was $2.15 per person per day. This has been revised upwards to $3 per person per day with 2021 purchasing power parity. Now let's move on. Important sections associated with the concepts that you have studied under income taxes. One is double taxation avoidance agreement, section 159. This is according to Income Tax Act of 2025. GAR, its section is chapter 11, general anti-avoidance rule. The MAT, the section 206 is the updated section. MAT in fact has been revised from 15% to 14% in the recently announced budget. Now the best way to revise all of this is to attempt a test series. Right now the Unacademy IAS test series are available at a discounted price of 1 rupee. Those interested in enrolling, check out the link. It is provided in the description. Enroll. This is the best way to revise and get prepared for the UPSC exam. And regarding the sheet that I'm using, do not write it down. This particular sheet as well as the one that I've used earlier to revise static portion of Indian economy in 4 hours, the link for both of them is provided in the description. Use the link to download both of them and revise in the last moment. Now, important surveys. We have PLFS, launched in 2017, Periodic Labor Force Survey, published by National Statistics Office, that is functioning under MOSPI. Earlier, this was published quarterly as well as annually. Now, this has been revised to monthly. We also have annual survey of unincorporated sector enterprises, those which are not registered. This is published annually now, and it is calculated and published by same, that is NSO, functioning under MOSPI. It started publishing this from the year 2021, focuses on rural areas as well as urban areas, and the entities which are covered under this are in manufacturing, trade and services, except those involved in construction. Very difficult to get the data. Annual survey of industries published by MOSPI, that is NSO, it focuses on covering the organized sector. Let's move on. Certain other important data. GDP, gross domestic product, it is published by NSO, National Statistical Office, functioning under MOSPI. The base year has been revised to 22 and 23. Update this. NSO, it publishes data regarding GDP, Index of Industrial Production, Consumer Price Index, the Periodic Labor Force Survey, Household Consumption Expenditure Survey, Time Use Survey, Annual Survey of Industries, etc. The WPI is published by taking a basket of 697 goods. It is published for every month by Office of Economic Advisor, which functions under the Ministry of Commerce. Base year right now is 11 and 12. A committee has been set up. It is yet to recommend, and the government is yet to revise the base year. We also have CPI. Its data has been revised very recently. The basket now doesn't have 299 goods and services. It has 358 goods and services. The base year has been revised from 2012 to 2024. Food and beverages earlier were given the weightage of 45.8%. Now it has been revised downwards to around 36%. Out of 358 products, 308 are goods. The base year for CPI AL Agriculture Labor also has been revised. It is published by Ministry of Labor. Now the basket has 150 to 200 goods. The products are 150 to 200. The base year is 2019. The data collected is from 34 states and union territories. Ladakh as well as Chandigarh, it is not covered. That is, data is not collected from there. CPI IW. It is published by Ministry of Labor. The base year is 2016. The basket has 463 goods and services. Flexible inflation targeting. It was introduced with MPFA, Monetary Policy Framework Agreement, being signed between the government as well as the Reserve Bank of India. First round was implemented from 2016 to 2021. Second round from 2021 to 2026. Now the third round from 2026 to 2031. And under this, the same target has been decided by Government of India after holding consultation with the Reserve Bank of India. That is the headline inflation target, CPI 4% with the flexibility of 200 basis points on either side. Another important fact that you need to remember is regarding sections of RBI Act of 1934. Section 8 talks about Central Board of Directors. Section 17 talks about business to be carried out by RBI. Section 21, the RBI is responsible for conducting banking affairs of the government. In fact, very recently, under this section itself, there is an MOU which has been signed between RBI and Delhi. Section 22 talks about the exclusive right with RBI to print currency notes. Section 47, surplus transfer to the Government of India. DICGC, it is a subsidiary of Reserve Bank of India. Very recently, the Reserve Bank of India has changed the amount of insurance premium that the banks are supposed to pay to the DICGC to get the deposit insurance. Until recently, it was a flat rate of 12 paise. Now, risk-based premium has been introduced. The range is from 8 paise to 12 paise for every 100 rupee worth of deposit. The banks are being classified into 4 categories, and according to that, they will have to end up paying insurance premium. Basel III guidelines are being implemented. There are 3 pillars or a 3-pillar approach which is being followed by RBI under the Basel. Basel is not compulsory, it is voluntary for the countries, and the central banks can change the numbers according to its requirement. The important numbers are capital conservation buffer of 2.5% of risk-weighted assets has to be maintained. In fact, very recently, RBI has announced that even though there is so much of uncertainty, volatility, etc., RBI will not be activating the counter-cyclical capital buffer. It will not be activating that. Capital adequacy ratio is 9%. Liquidity coverage ratio, right, of 100%. Tier 1 capital should be at least 7% of risk-weighted assets. You also have BEPS 2.0. There are 2 pillars under this. Pillar 1 talks about the profit redistribution, and this is applicable to those particular companies which have a turnover of at least 20 billion euros. Take part of the profits and distribute in those countries where the profits are generated. Pillar 2 talks about global minimum corporate tax. Effective corporate tax rate should be at least 15%. And this is applicable for those companies which have revenues of more than 750 million euros. As mentioned earlier, MAT is 14% effective from this financial year. GST has been revised, rationalized. Instead of multiple slabs, now the most important slabs are 5% and 18%. There is also a demerit slab for sin goods or demerit goods of 40%. The government of India has changed the fiscal anchor for policy making now. Unlike the fiscal deficit that was targeted by the government, now the government is going to target the total debt to be reduced to 50% of gross domestic product by end of financial year 31. 16th Finance Commission, the recommendations will be implemented from 2026 to 2031. Vertical devolution is 41%. Horizontal devolution formula has parameters: income distance 42.5%, population 2011 17.5%, demographic performance of 10%, area of 10%, forest 10%, and GDP contribution 10%. The highest maturity period for a government bond, which government has introduced last year, is 50 years. External commercial borrowing numbers have been changed. Highest limit that is allowed has been increased from 750 million to 1 billion, or 300% of the net worth, whichever is higher. There is no limit on the interest rate that a borrower can offer, and the coverage who is allowed to borrow also has been expanded. Exchange rate evolution, from 1947 to 1971, we introduced a par value system, and 1971 to 1992 we introduced a pegged exchange rate system. 92 and 93 we introduced a dual exchange rate system, that is LERMS, and after 1993 we have introduced the concept of managed float. Other important concepts or datas that you need to go through: near index and rear index. Near index basically will provide you the value of rupee against a basket of currencies, whereas the rear index will provide you the information regarding real change in the value of rupee, that is inflation adjusted. Both of these indices are published by Reserve Bank of India, and the base year is 2015 and 2016. The basket has two sets of currencies, or two baskets of currencies. In one basket we have 6 currencies, most important trading partners. In another basket we have 40 currencies. Now, regarding the foreign trade policy, this has come into force from 2023. There is no sunset date for this. There is no expiry date, because earlier the foreign trade policy was announced for every 5 years. The target under this is a $2 trillion worth of trade by 2030. Out of this, merchandise trade target is 1 trillion. Service trade is 1 trillion, that is exports. The MSP is announced by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. This is recommended by Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices. CACP functions under the Ministry of Agriculture. The MSP that is announced right now, it is based on A2 plus FL formula, and it is 150% of cost of production, that is A2 plus FL. It is announced for 22 crops, and for one crop the government announces, for sugarcane the government announces FRP. Apart from this, another terminology that is there in the newspapers is nutrient based subsidy. Under this, the P and K fertilizers are provided subsidy by the government. This was introduced in the year 2010. And the idea is, based on the nutrients which are consumed to produce these fertilizers, the government will announce per kg subsidy. The direct benefit transfer was introduced in 2013. Under the DBT, the cash-based subsidy as well as the kind-based subsidies over 300 are covered. MSME definition: for micro, small and medium based on investment and turnover criteria are 2.5 CR, 10 CR, 25 CR, 100 CR, and 125 CR and 500 CR respectively. The Index of Industrial Production is published every month with the base year of 22 and 23, changed very recently, applicable from this month. It is published by NSO. The components are electricity, mining and manufacturing. The Index of 8 Core Industries is published every month by Office of Economic Advisor. The base year is same 22 and 23. FDI can come into India under two routes. One is the automatic route and the second one is the approval route. Under automatic, you don't require any permission. Bring in the money, invest, and within 30 days inform RBI. Whereas under the approval route, there are two methods. Up to 5,000 crore rupees, you will have to apply through a foreign investment facilitation portal, and more than 5,000 crore, you will have to get the approval from Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Now, last important data for you: investment infrastructure trust and real estate infrastructure trust. The InvIT will invest in many other types of infrastructure projects except real estate, because in real estate, REIT is applicable. Both of them are regulated by SEBI. Important numbers are 90% of the surplus or the money that is revenue earned by these will have to be distributed to the unit holders. 80% of the funds, minimum 80% has to be invested in completed projects, 20% in incomplete or incomplete projects. The sponsor will have to hold at least 15% of the units for a certain time period. So these are certain important data points that you have to revise for the upcoming prelims 2026. All the best to all of you. Together, let's crack it.